thank you everyone again for bearing with us here as we get things rolling and get things started. But again, hopefully you guys are excited to learn about SEO. So today we're not going to dive too deep into the weeds. I mean, obviously we're going to kind of like trim the weeds in a sense. We'll hit on all the necessary topics. But first and foremost, I want to introduce Trent. So how's it going, Trent?
Good. Hey, everybody. Excited to be here on one of the famous webinars. Hey, excited to talk SEO. As Kelsey said, we're not going to get too deep into the weeds. If you do want to get in the weeds, though, I am an SEO nerd at heart. So let me know after, and I'm happy to talk SEO and go deep with anybody who wants to after the call.
Yeah, that's and again, in the future, we're planning on maybe having some that are more in depth within the particular topics that we'll be chatting about today. This is also the very first webinar I've had with anyone else, and so, but Trent is our head of SEO here at Lyft, and so we're excited to kind of dive into some maybe the more prevalent questions that we maybe hear in calls and things with other shop owners. And so, yeah, if you're ready and excited to get going, just throw a 1 in the chat for me. So then that way we know that y'all are ready. All right, we got some ones rolling through. So we'll be good to go here. And yeah, again, and as you have any questions, please leverage this chat function as well as or the Q&A. I mean, there's a Q&A button as well that you can leverage. Either one works for us, and I'll make sure I peek through as we go through here. But yeah, we'll be talking about SEO. So again, these are kind of the main topics we'll be hitting on today. Kind of 1 through 5. We got, again, at a basic level, what is SEO for those that don't know. And if you are also watching, say, the recording of this webinar, please feel free to like the video and then also make sure that you're commenting along, and we'll make sure that we're being interactive on YouTube as well, wherever you may be listening or whatever timing you're listening. But after SEO, we're going to break SEO down a little bit to some of the different levels that we look at it. One's going to be local SEO, then we'll go into technical SEO. Then we'll talk about common mistakes, and then we'll do best tips, things that actionable items that you guys are able to take from maybe said mistakes, and you see that on maybe your presence, and then you can adjust and go from there. Okay, so hopefully this agenda looks good for everyone. We'll be with you guys here for, again, 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour. We'll see. Again, depends on the questions and things. So I appreciate people being live. So again, do not hesitate to ask questions as we go along. So, first and foremost, we have our digital dominance methods, because I think I touch on each and every webinar. These are different aspects of online marketing that here at Lyft we focus on, and then we also do webinars around different aspects. Sometimes it's all in one. We'll talk about all things at a very, very high level. But today, obviously, we're going to focus a little bit more on SEO. That's why I have Trent here, who is definitely our biggest expert. And I know he did. Definitely one of the best experts that I know of across the board, not to be biased or anything like that, but it would definitely be chatting about SEO in and of itself. But these other aspects are definitely important to have in play. So make sure that you're at least aware of those things. And again, if you have social media,
I'll just chime in. It's just key to just see how this is a piece to the puzzle. Obviously, it's an important piece. I'm very biased, as I think it's such a huge channel and opportunity for any local based business, but like auto shops in particular, huge opportunity here. But there are other pieces to create that cohesive overall strategy. But I'm excited to dive into the SEO piece today.
Yeah, no, for sure. Perfect. And if you hear sudden shouting or yelling in the background, it's the U.S. women's soccer game for the Olympics going on. My wife is very passionate about said game, and so that may be sneaking through. Hopefully, it doesn't sneak through the audio, but yeah, I do hear it already. The excitement in the air. But all right, perfect. So first and foremost, I mean, we wanted to ask this question: do you have a dedicated SEO strategy for your shop? So in the chat, just put yes or no if you have a dedicated SEO strategy for your shop. I'd love to know if people even have one.
Yeah, and as you're doing that, I like that sub question as well. What are some challenges you face with implementing SEO? I think that's one thing. It's one thing to have a strategy, but you guys are in the weeds with your shop. So if there have been specific challenges, we'd love to see those, to see if we are going to be addressing them throughout this webinar. if not, like those are something at the end we want to make sure that we tackle and are able to at least give you some thoughts on.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we have some people commenting. A couple of people said they don't have one, which is totally fine. I guess some people are working with us, which is great. I appreciate you being in here. Some others are working on it, which is great. Again, we want to create at least a starting point here. And if you don't even know what an SEO strategy is, we will be hitting on those things for you today in terms of what to even think about and consider when even looking at a SEO strategy. So perfect. All right. So let's go on. And Trent, I guess I'd let you take it away
Yeah,
in terms of like
I'll
what
I'll
is
I'll
it? What
dive
is
in.
SEO?
Yeah, so this is I mean SEO, you probably heard search engine optimization out there, but really like what does that actually mean? SEO. And so we're gonna talk about SEO, local SEO, technical SEO, a few different like niches within SEO. But at its core, like SEO for me is just like how easily can your site be crawled and indexed by a search engine? A crawler, when I say crawl, search engines send out little robots. We call them spiders that go out and they look at every website and they look at every page of a website and they determine number one if it should be ranked and put in their index to show up in their search engine. So the biggest thing, like at its simplest form, is like SEO is the art of making sure your site is extremely crawlable and indexable. And by having those two factors, it's going to allow you to show up and rank higher within their index or within their search engine. We talk mostly about Google. Google's the main player within SEO. They take up about 90% of the market share when it comes to search engines. So if I say Google, you can just kind of like refer that to any search engine. But I think in the world, most people, especially at auto shops, like we'll have the occasional Bing users, but Google's going to be the primary one that we target. And so when people mention Google, you can basically say any search engine, but Google's going to be the most prevalent one.
No,
Um,
absolutely. And then we do have a question that's and again, I think
yep.
you kind of hit on it already. They asked what is SEO and like what is an SEO, but I mean again, we hit on it in terms of search engine optimization. But there was a bit better question in terms of why do I need it? So I guess Trent, what is the benefit? Why is SEO even important?
Why is it important? That's a great question, and the answer is this is how people search now. Probably 20 years ago, like if you needed someone to work on your auto repair needs, you needed someone to work on your car, where would you go? You'd go to the phone book, right? You'd find their name, the address, and the phone number of your local services, your local mechanics. Uh, I don't know the last time I've seen a phone book in someone's house, other than at my in-laws. They use them. They tape two phone books together as booster seats for our kids at the dinner table. That's the last time I've seen actual physical phone books. Search engines are for local services. They're the phone books of our days. This is how people, when they need a service, they need their car to be fixed. The place they go, if it's not going to be a referral, they don't know what to do. They're going to go to a search engine, typically Google. And if you don't have an SEO plan, like you are missing out on just a lion's share of your potential customers. I think the second bullet point is like increasing your online visibility. Like that's what we're doing. We're making SEO is all about making your shop visible in this new plat. It's not even new in this platform that has become the leader in really getting people the services they want. And so, why is it important? I think just the way that humans engage and interact now when they're trying to find a service, they're going to the internet. And
Yep.
typically it means they're going to Google. And so, if you aren't trying to show up there and you're just hoping that like magically your shop's going to appear in the top results, I've got bad news for you. That's not how it works. You do need to be very intentional and have a strategy in order to get to a place where you are showing up and you're showing up above your competition.
No, 100% agree on all those points. He also said they explain it like a baby. I think we definitely explain at a very low level, but again, in terms of a majority of people have phones, and so that's where they're going and searching, and they don't really know what, at times they don't remember what brand they drove by down the street. They're just like, okay, I need an auto repair shop, like, because my car's making a weird noise or it has a weird smell, and then they're just typing it in Google. And now the question becomes, how do I become more than likely that top option? And so we'll be chatting in terms of how we can kind of drill down a little bit further in terms of making those things happen here. So let's go on, and in terms of
let me just show you, because within SEO, especially the like working in the service industries, right? The auto repair. When we're talking about SEO, there's kind of a couple different elements here. So you can see this is a typical Google search. And broad SEO, or like what most people, when you talk about SEO, what they think about is showing up in these organic listings, or with your name, a brief description of your company, and you're just kind of like trying to be one of the top 10 results. That's broad SEO. And so we do a lot of things within our strategies to help you show up there. We're going to talk local SEO in a second, which is trying to get you in that little element above it, that map pack. And so there is some nuances even within like SEO, knowing like, okay, there's a different strategy to get you to rank as a list in that kind of outlined business listing, as it is to get you to show up in the map pack. And we got to make sure we're doing multiple things in order for that to happen. But they are two completely different kind of elements in Google's eyes. So when we're talking broad SEO, that is typically what someone is referring to. And then once we get into local SEO, which we'll talk about here on the next slide, we're talking about helping you rank in that map pack and in that kind of GeoGrid location of your client or of your potential customers.
Yeah,
clientele.
for sure. Awesome. I actually have a question in terms of, hey, the difference between the maps and now we're looking at, say, the organic listing here. Like, what is the split between like how many people visit what? Is it still important for the website to be ranking well versus, say, is it only the maps that we need to pay attention to?
Yeah, it's very important for both. It's great to have a strategy for both. For a local service, the map pack is typically where you're going to get the majority of like the phone calls, people interacting with your shop, because they can click on the map and they can call you directly. They can visit your website. So that's where you get a lot of engagement. But that is very geographically driven, right? So in order to show up there, you need to be within kind of the region that's being searched. And so it's great to make sure you are leveraged for anyone who's searching within, typically, it's usually about a 3 to 5 mile radius is where you're really going to perform the best within that map pack. And you just want to make sure you're going to be one of those top results. However, you might not be in that 3 to 5 mile radius, but you still want people to know maybe like 15 miles away, 20. It depends on how populous your area is or how condensed it is. But maybe you want people to know I'm in Utah. So if I live in Provo, Utah, people in Salt Lake should know that we actually offer services for them. So that's where you could create specific locations or cities that you serve nearby. And although you might not primarily show up in the map pack, by having a location page or a service page targeting content, you can show up in the organic listings below. So it's just a way to really kind of get more real estate, but also make sure whether someone's searching for you within that geographical region where you have a really good shot to show up in the map pack, or if they're further away, maybe they're on a road trip and they remembered, oh, I need to get my car fixed next week. Oh, I need to look up a mechanic and set up an appointment. It kind of hedges your bets and allows you to also show up organically if their IP address isn't within the region you're at. So that's one reason why it's super important, especially within our industry. It really just enhances your chances of performing well. And the organic listings is what I'll call this highlighted section. Yep. That allows you to be competitive in really any area that you do serve, even if it's geographically too far out where Google doesn't want to refer someone who's searching from 20 miles away and say you're the top result, because there might be a shop 0.1 miles away from them. And from a user experience, Google wants to provide a great experience for the user. So they might favor that 0.1 mile shop away from you since you're 20 miles down the road. But we could show up beneath in the organic listings.
Yep, understand. I think there's also a pretty strong correlation between like where you're ranking organically versus where you're ranking in the map. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Typically, like they're two different elements, but they work within the same algorithm.
yep,
And so it's another piece of the puzzle where if you want to perform well in one, you need to have some effort. You need to show effort in the other,
yep.
and they work really well and we're really synergistically together.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll go on into local SEO and kind of the
Yeah.
importance of local.
Yeah, and I think we've already touched on this a little bit with that last slide, but
Mhm.
local is really where we are trying to get in that map pack, right? This is where the strategy is to get us to show up better within the region or the geographical um, area of where our customers are. And within the auto shop industry, the auto repair industry, this is our bread and butter, right? These are your clients. Um, I've worked with many other industries in the past within my career, and it's just a lot easier to understand our audience than it is for like I did a lot of work with like cybersecurity and DevOps and like oh my gosh like helping them understand how to get like a user in Maine or Denmark to convert is it's a lot more convoluted than something like this where it's like hey we know our area, we know these are our audience, these are our customers, how do we get in front of them? Local SEO is how we do that. And so really what we focus on here is your Google business profile, and that's the element that shows up on the local search. And so when it comes to local SEO, like local is focused on that Google business profile, the directories and citations you're showing up in, how consistent across the internet your name, address, and phone number are. Those are all elements that help you perform better in that local box, which or that map pack, whatever you want to call it. But this is critical because this, for me, like this is where you get your lowest funnel, highest converting audience right in front of your shop. These are the people looking for whatever they're searching, like oil change near me, like a brake repair in Pleasant Grove, Utah. Like they need you, and so we want to be able to have you show up for them as a top result, and that's the beauty of local SEO is we know the tactics to help get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the amount of like the percentage of clicks that you get from it is like probably 70% of the clicks that you get from Google are coming from your Google business profile. So thus it's so important to have it optimized and correlated
Yeah.
correctly. So we got a couple questions that have snuck through though. So one question is, are there any specific local SEO strategies that are particularly effective for auto repair shops?
Yeah, I think a big thing for this is understanding your services, and making sure because not all most auto repair shops are going to have like a slew of services that they offer, but you need to make sure it's very clear to Google and your customers what those services are. And so one thing that we're very particular with is on the website, making sure all the services are offered and our pages are optimized for your area for those services. And then also your Google business profile. You can list out services and we can also create product tiles that showcase those. And those are all strategies to really help within the auto repair world, help you show up for those particular services because people aren't always just searching for auto repair, right? A lot of times they have a more specific need, and an auto repair shop, if that's all you're focused on, you might miss a ton of potential customers because they're looking for that more specific service. So that's one tactic we really focus and help our clients with is trying to not just be broad and the best auto repair shop there, but like we're going to get you the top for auto repair, but all the other additional services, we want to make sure you're showing up and you're competitive. And again, we have specific strategies to do that both on your website and within your Google business profile.
Perfect. And then there's another question in terms of how can I compete with larger chains or national brands in the local search results?
That's a great question. And that's one thing where I feel like this is another element of SEO, but it's attached to kind of like the whole holistic strategy. Your reviews. Reviews are huge. And someone might see you versus like a national chain. And they're gonna might feel familiar with the national change because they heard that name, but like making sure you have competitive reviews with them, you have good customers, legitimate, authentic reviews coming in. That's going to be something that Google also factors in. Like reviews are factored into the algorithm, but that's one way that you can kind of like set yourself apart and be like, hey, we're more than just like a number.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to call out a specific chain, but we're more than McDonald's restaurant number 5082, right?
Yeah.
We care about you. We can be more authentic. So you can do that with reviews, but also like just because there's a franchise with national like presence, it doesn't mean that that automatically is going to make them rank higher than you. Like they need to work just as hard as you do in order to kind of build up that trust and relevancy with Google because their individual Google business profile isn't attached to like the main corporate authority. Like it's its own shop. It is treated that as its own shop. And so it doesn't give them any outside of the brand recognition, it doesn't give it any sort of advantage over your shop.
Yep, no, 100% agree. 'Cause I think typically you'll see like the franchises, the overall review scores, as you see in the average, it's fairly low. And so if you're always shooting your shop to be obviously the most convenient and the most like again high service orientation for auto repair shops in town, you'll get that a review score of 4.5 or higher. Again, even there's a top three spot in the maps as we'll show here in a second, but just because again you're within the top three now, it's like okay, you got there, and how do you differentiate yourself? I think that's gonna be a big thing. But let's show kind of an example here as we look at just what it is, the local SEO area.
Yeah, and this is that example. Again, we've talked about this a bit, but this one thing that is just like critical with local SEO and getting in this map pack, probably 90% of the time, the majority of the time, this map pack is going to be the top result. It's going to be above the organic listings. It's not always, but the majority of the time it is. And so that's one reason why it's so critical, especially if someone's searching mobile. Like the map pack is going to be very just like in their face as soon as they hit that search. Mm-hmm. And so local SEO is critical because it typically like it's the cheat code to get to the top, right? Like even if your organic listing isn't in spot one, you can still be one of the top results in your area based on the map pack. Again, there's typically correlation there, but you need to have a focus on this because this is the first thing people are going to go see, and it's what the majority of people searching a service are going to engage with.
100%. I think a common so just again for clarity here, Kiwi's Auto Repair is one of our clients that we're using as an example here, and we didn't just choose one that was automatically at number one, and then that's because just because you're in that number one slot does not mean that you're going to get chosen more often than the second or third. There's a lot of things that have shown this. The fact that you're here allows it, then it's kind of equal distribution to start looking at, say, the reviews. How many reviews do you have on average and things like that. So the key is getting into the top three. And then once you get to the top three, okay, what is differentiating you here? Maybe it's going to be like, oh, you have really good review responses that correlated to the search query that appeared there, or your average score is like you have overwhelmingly way more reviews than all your other competitors that are in the top three. Then it kind of makes it a lot easier of a decision for the customer to be like, okay, I'm probably going to give them a try first and see if they answer the phone and I do all that good stuff before maybe call the rest of the people. So I think that's going to be a good thing to differentiate and know. Of another question. So it says, out of curiosity, how do national auto repair franchises tackle NAP if they have hundreds or thousands of stores across different locations in the nation? So that's a pretty good question.
That is a great question. So this is where each one of their stores or their locations has to have its individual Google business profile. And as long as they have a physical location, they can qualify to have that. And then it's all about making sure that individual franchise at that location, once it's set up and it has its Google business profile, maintains, again, the same NAP information, name, address, and phone number, and starts putting that out, usually with its, since it has its own profile. I think of like McDonald's as an example. If you Google McDonald's, like it's not McDonald's Pleasant Grove, McDonald's Orem, they're all just McDonald's. So Google will understand that since it's its own location, it has its own address. It's not going to cannibalize with the others. But it's all about getting that set and then starting to place that information in directories
Mhm.
and making sure that you are reviewing that and updating those directories and your citations regularly. Um, and as long as you're creating the individual locations and you're very intentional, or these bigger national chains are very intentional about their strategies, then they're going to be able to reduce the cannibalization and the confusion for crawlers, because the crawlers and the search engines work on, for local SEO, the Google business profile information. And you can also set it up within, if you're doing 100 franchisees or 100 locations, you can set it up within the same profile or the same account, and that helps clarify again, like, oh, this business has this many locations. Here's each individual information. And so
Yep.
it takes a lot of work, a lot of organization. Um, and so that's where usually these national franchises, if they're smart, they have an in-house kind of corporate SEO team working on this. If not, it becomes a jumbled mess, or they're having to bring someone or hire someone, contractor, an agency to fulfill that for them.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, I think, yeah, the name obviously is not the unique portion here. It's going to be the
Yeah.
address and phone number for these types of businesses. And with that alone, as long as that's consistent within citations, you're good to go. And there's a question on backlinks, but I'm gonna ask that when we get to the technical SEO portion, Christian. So don't worry. I'm not ignoring your question. I do see it. Just it'll flow much better in kind of our next section here as we go along. But I guess before we do that, any other questions on local SEO while we are here? Everyone has asked great questions so far. I'm appreciative of whenever people ask questions, because it shows me that you care. And so are there any other questions in regards to local SEO that maybe you want us to dig in a little bit deeper on? And if not, totally fine. You can ask afterwards, or leave a comment if you're watching the replay and ask us there, and we'll do our best to answer those right away for you. But if not, we're going to move on. So, okay. And then nothing else has appeared quite yet. And again, if you're still typing, we'll answer it. We'll stop. But we'll go on to, what is technical SEO, Trent?
This is where it gets nerdy. So we'll keep things pretty high level here. Technical SEO, like for me, I talk about SEO in general is like, okay, how crawlable, indexable, how are search engines kind of working and like interacting with your site. Technical SEO is really just the back end of your website, just understanding how, like, making sure it is being able to be crawled. So like when they send their robots to you, they can crawl it, and that you aren't doing anything to cause your website to not be indexed. If you can't be indexed, which means you're getting put in the database of knowledge, or the database. I imagine like, what are the old filing cabinets? Does anyone have a filing cabinet anymore? I just imagine anytime a crawler gets sent out, they like take all this information, they just get all these papers, and they make a little folder for you, and they put it in this filing cabinet in Google. That's how I think about it, but or visualize it. But that's what's happening. And so if you're preventing the crawlers from being able to get that information and send it back to Google,
Mhm.
like it doesn't matter how many citations you build. It doesn't matter how great your content is. Like you will not rank, you will not perform. And so technical SEO is just all the nerdy little technical aspects that you get into that makes sure and validates that Google likes your site and that Google can crawl and index you. So there's again, if you go to the next slide, there's a lot to it. I'll just like kind of list off a couple of my favorite parts: robots.txt files, sitemaps, metadata, redirect. So like these are all elements of it, but it all goes back to that core. Hey, can Google get to your site and index you? And if they can, okay, you've got a foundation. You're not holding yourself back, and everything else is gonna help you rank better. But if you don't have this set, like you're toast. Like you don't even have a chance to rank.
No, no, 100%. All right, and so we have some other questions. Christian, you asked a couple, but I'll ask the first. No, I'm gonna skip the first one. No, we'll ask the first one. How important are backlinks to rank? I know this is for local SEO, but I think just backlinks for ranking.
Yeah, backlinks. There was a big leak from Google about a month or so ago, And before then, Google always kept saying, oh, backlinks, like they're important, but they're not as important as they used to be. Like they're not as big of a ranking signal as they were before. It's more about like the quality of your content. Then Google leaked 13,000 like pages of data around their algorithm. And one of the biggest their takeaways we found was, oh, actually links still are one of the top ranking signals for Google.
Yeah.
So links are still very important, but for me and like understanding how they fit into the ecosystem, they help you rank a lot more for those organic listings.
Mm.
So showing up in the list underneath the map pack, the backlinks are going to help build up your site's authority, your page authority to show up there. Citations in directories is really kind of like the backlinks, but not really backlink. But those are the links that help you perform better in the map packs. So they're going to help you again. There's correlation, so it will help you holistically across everything. But those backlinks are going to help you rank for organically, typically better for specific keywords.
And to take a step, I think for those that don't know, what is a backlink?
Oh, great question. Again, we're keeping things high level here. Sorry.
Yeah. What is a backlink?
Very
We
nerdy.
don't want to jump too far.
Very quickly. A backlink is simply when another website, a third-party website, has a link on one of their pages that directs over to your website. And so this is very typical with like blogs. You'll see it a lot in blogs. It's like I'm writing a blog about car repair, and I just do it. I have a car repair blog that I run. If I'm writing an article about brakes and I talk about the best brake shops in California, like I'll probably send a backlink over to any shop that I mention. And so it's just very natural for Google, from Google's perspective. It's kind of how they like, if you wanted to become prom king back in the day or prom queen, whatever your flavor was, like if you were the nicest, most awesome kid, like you probably still weren't going to win unless you were also the most popular kid too. Like popularity was a big part of it. Popularity is still a thing with Google. Like these backlinks, imagine it's just like anytime someone's linking to you, it's kind of like a vote. Yep. And it's them saying to Google, like, hey, this other website is more authoritative than I am on this topic. So like if you want to rank them for something, like if you want to rank anybody for this keyword that I'm linking with, like these should be the people. This should be the website.
Yeah, I think and popularity is a great term to use. I've used it quite a bit when speaking about like SEO and helping ranking. I think sometimes it has a negative connotation in terms of like, oh, people don't get uncomfortable about like I don't want to be popular or whatever it may be. But I mean, Google at the end of the day wants people to keep using Google, and so like the results that tend to be more popular will probably be more useful at times for an average consumer. So that's where that comes into play of being
and Google doesn't say popular. They have it within the SEO world, SEO being an acronym, there's acronyms everywhere, but they love to talk about what they call EEAT. Expertise, experience, authority, and trust. And backlinks are a great way for them to understand how authoritative your website is and how trustworthy your website is. If you have a lot of other websites linking to you and kind of telling them like, hey, yeah, this is a person, this is a site, that helps them to understand like, oh, these people are an authority in the space. People are recognizing them. And backlinks, I mean, I'll take a step back after this, but backlinks, when it comes to like how much authority they send to you, like it depends on like who's linking to you. So like if a car repair blogger has a link going to you, that's going to be a lot more authoritative or kind of like a lot more weighted for Google than if a dog walker guide website like links to you. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense for someone who's talking about dogs and walking dogs to link to you as a car repair shop. So we could go again, put in the chat if there are like these like little topics you're like, I want to go deeper on this, like put that in the chat so we can have a webinar specifically on that. And we can go really deep, but that's just another kind of little interesting element with backlinks. It's not necessarily about how many people are backlinking to you, but like how many relevant people, how many relevant websites are telling Google that you are the authority.
Perfect, perfect. And we have a bunch of more good questions in the queue here, so we're gonna hit on them. Christian's next question was this: if my SEO agency can't get my blogs indexed, am I wasting money?
Ooh, if they can't get them indexed,
Yeah.
that seems like, especially for an auto shop, like blogs for an auto shop, like the goal for them is to build up topical authority. Um, in the sense that like if you write a blog that's like, okay, the tips for maintaining brakes, the top 10 tips for maintaining brakes. If you get that to rank on Google, like in theory, yeah, you're going to get some good traffic to your site, but how many people in the world who search that are going to be like in your geographical location?
Mhm.
Not a ton. So when it comes to the blogs, it's not necessarily the traffic that we're trying to grab, even though the traffic's great. Like it's brand recognition, brand awareness. It can help just Google know that you're getting more engagement on your site. But more importantly, it's the topical authority. Like Google, if you want to rank for brake repairs and brake repair keywords in your area, Google wants to know that you're an authority on brake repairs. So they want to see that you have content that answers questions about brake repairs that someone might naturally have. And you don't want your brake repair service page to be 10,000 words long and like just jam every question, every answer. Like that doesn't make sense. So in order to build up that authority, that's where you have a blog and you can provide that content. And that content, by being topically authority, even though it might not drive all the traffic in the world, if Google can crawl and index it, they're going to see you as being an authority, more of an authority on the topic of brakes than if your competitors don't have that same content. Like that's like a level up you can have versus your competition. So if you're paying for these blogs and they're producing good blogs, but they're not being indexed, like that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
Short answer, that is
I
not
won't sugarcoat it for
good.
that. Like it is 100% a waste of money if like it's
100% a waste of money.
if it's not being indexed, then it's like, okay, what was the point? I can see maybe if like, okay, they're creating maybe duplicated blogs and thus they don't need both indexes. But then my question would be, well, why was a duplicated blog even created in the first place then if it was not? Again, there has to be a purpose behind why you're even creating content. And so if you're not going to index it, there has to be a purpose behind it. So a few situations where I see things not indexed is like, hey, it's a landing page strictly maybe for Google Ads. Like we don't need that to be indexed. There's probably going to be a lot more spam related clicks possibly there. You don't want that associated with your website anyways. And so that's where a situation where I can see that not being indexed. But again, good question. A little bit deeper for some of you. Hopefully that's not just flying right over people's heads, but we want to answer the questions that people are asking. A couple more questions. How often should I update my website's content to maintain good SEO and make it crawlable?
Yeah, I mean, Google wants fresh content. I mean, this doesn't mean you have to update it every day,
Yep.
but I would say every like 6 months or so, you just want to go through and just make sure everything's still relevant.
Mm.
And so this is something where regularly is kind of a loose term, but I would say, especially your main pages, like going in, tweaking, adjusting, making sure there's not kind of topics your competitors are talking about that maybe have popped up over the past 6 months to a year that you're not talking about. Like those are the kind of things that you want to be thinking about as you refresh your content. You don't want to just refresh it by like spinning the words, because that's not going to do anything for you. But as long as you're just adding value and just making sure things are up to date and relevant, like I would, for any top service page, want to be looking at that every 6 to 12 months, at least. And then if you do have like really like a service that there's just a lot of changes happening in the industry to it, I don't foresee that happening in this the car repair industry. But if you were in an industry that was growing and changing rapidly, that's where you'd want to touch it more often.
Yeah, 100%. Perfect. And then the last one, at least in the queue so far, is how can I improve my website's loading speed for better SEO?
Okay, loading speed. So page speed is huge. Page speed. If you want to get nerdy, just look up Core Web Vitals. I'm not going to touch them right now, but that's kind of like Google's metrics for measuring speed. It depends on what your site's built on. There's usually some pretty easy things like images. Sometimes you can add a plugin if you're on WordPress that's going to implement lazy loading or it's going to cache them. So it's going to depend on what platform you're on. I would talk to you. We've got some great developers that are a lot better at kind of that end of things than me. But usually we work with WordPress sites, and we have a couple plugins in our back pocket that really help increase that page speed and loading time.
100%. And then another question is in terms of like, I know you mentioned WordPress, but why, like, is WordPress any better than some of these drag and drop builders that are all over the place? Like, what is preferable?
Yeah, yeah. WordPress. So WordPress is the most popular kind of website CMS out there in the world.
Mhm.
The reason it's so popular is because it's very customizable, and it's from an SEO perspective, you aren't restricted from updating your robots file or adding redirects or changing the URL structure. So it's very flexible and customizable, which a lot of the drag and drop ones, you might be stuck with a certain URL structure. If Shopify, my favorite thing is that I don't know how they haven't solved this at this point, but Shopify websites, anytime you create a blog, it's not just /blog and then your blog article. It's /read/blog/article. Like they have to have read in there for some reason. I just have never understood how they can't get rid of that extra subfolder that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But anyways, when you work with the drag and drop, the other platforms, a lot of them are very compatible with SEO. You're just limited a lot of times with what you can do, and we don't encounter that with WordPress, and that's typically why I prefer, or like we recommend utilizing WordPress if you're not. It's definitely worth the time and kind of the transition to get on there.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, in my opinion, if you were to make identical websites, one WordPress versus one of these drag and drop ones, I'd say pretty much 100% of the time, WordPress one would rank better, just because of the customizability you can do on the back end of a website for SEO purposes. Because again, if everything else is identical, what can be different? It would be that back end where a WordPress website would thus rank better. But all right, those are some great questions. And I appreciate, again, as you guys have more, please feel free to jump in and ask some more. But we are going to go into kind of what are some common SEO mistakes that shops should avoid. And so how do we then adjust our SEO strategies for this?
So these are some that we've come across. They are pretty straight. A lot of them are straightforward, but we're kind of keeping things high level, hopefully. But this first one is local SEO. You can't rank in the Google Map Pack if your Google business profile is not verified. And I can't tell you how many times I've had clients. Sorry, I got to shut my door real quick.
No, you're good. You're good.
How many times I've had clients in the past where they're like what, like we were ranking, but now we're not ranking. And anytime you like mess with your address at all, you have to re-verify your shop. And I go in as like, oh, you changed your address, you're no longer verified, and so Google is not going to serve you. And so just making sure you always keep an eye on that, especially if you're making any like tweaks to your address, like that's going to save you a lot of heartache. Just knowing that like it's okay to make that change. You just have to quickly resubmit typically a video just like showing like, hey, that this shop's still in the same place. I just changed the address, or we changed location. So here's where we're at.
Perfect. A different question on load speed from earlier was, does Microsoft Clarity Tool slow down page load speed? Microsoft claims it does not, but some experts say otherwise. What do you think about this?
Alan, that's a question I'm going to have to circle back on. Yeah, for me, I haven't dove into the Microsoft Clarity Tool in depth for a minute. So I can circle back and do some research and let you know what I think.
For sure. It's not something that we typically leverage within what we do, Alan. But it is a very in-depth. These are some, you guys have some deep questions, deeper than I definitely expected coming through. We can definitely circle back on that, and we'll throw it in the comments in terms of when we find a reputable answer for you there. So perfect. All right, but yeah, this is an example again. Just if you go into Google's profile, there probably shouldn't be many unless you have multiple shop locations. But if it says verification required, just click on the get verified button and follow the prompts. Biggest thing to do there, and also even if it's not address changes, sometimes I've seen before if you make too many changes at one time in there, it will just Google's algorithm will be freaking out and thinking like, what is going on in here? And it'll just like suspend it and be like, stop what you're doing. I need a verification to make sure this is all real and not like a spam thing that's just going on. So yeah, one thing to be careful of because sometimes this process can be an absolute pain for no reason at all. So the best to
Yeah.
avoid when possible. But all right, number two, adding near me onto your pages.
Yes, this is one, and this Google, like, as long as Google has been around, people have found ways to game Google,
Mm.
right? To try and kind of work around the system. So this was very prevalent a few years ago, but it's still like some people still haven't like caught on that like this actually hurts you. Not only does it like not help, but it can actively hurt you. And so adding near me onto your pages um, does not help you rank better for near me searches.
Mm.
This is something that Google is very aware that like a user will typically type in near me, but when you're reading something, when you're or writing something, you're not saying like, oh, well, the best auto repair shop near me is going to like, it's just very unnatural. And so this did work years back. It no longer is a very solid tactic. If you go to the next slide, it's like even Google has documentation where um, it treats it as a near me as um, the last line like the, Google doesn't like keyword stuffing and like adding near me onto your pages just feels very abnormal, and so they're going to see that as keyword stuffing, and that's where it could you could get flagged. You never want to get flagged by Google. You always just want to fit in
Yeah.
and go with the trends with Google. You never want to stick out like that. So this is something where if you're utilizing it in a title tag in the H1 of your site within the content, like it's just something to definitely take out of your repertoire. It's as bad as keyword stuffing was 10 years ago when people wanted to rank for a keyword, so they just threw that keyword like in white text in the background of
Yeah.
their website, and like it worked for a minute. And so people were utilizing this, and it was helping people to the point that there was a dentist. I think there's a dentist office that came up like 4 years ago that's called Dentist
This is
Near Me.
near me. Yeah. I was actually
Yeah.
going to bring that up. Yes, I didn't just rang a bell as we were talking.
Yeah.
So,
And they killed it there for a minute. And like it broke the system for a second. Like the sense that like they automatically would rank at the top.
yeah.
Google figured it out and then like made sure to make sure if you're saying in your domain, obviously like you're trying to work the system. And then if you're saying it a ton on your page, it's gonna be more detrimental than positive for you
Yeah,
in
it
today's.
definitely was an SEO person of some kind. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a dentist, a dental office, and I'm just
Oh
gonna
my
keep
gosh.
dentists near. I saw how many search terms get searched nationwide. We're good to go.
And they
So yeah,
probably made a killing there for a couple months until
yeah,
Google was like, we don't like that.
yeah.
It goes
No, for
back to
sure.
like Snickers. This is a tangent, but Snickers, they always have that campaign like you're not you when you're hungry,
Mhm.
right? Like eat a Snickers. So they Snickers did a paid campaign where they would took like the top searched keywords on the internet and misspelled them. And they would run ads for like pennies because no one was like running ads for the misspelling of a term. So they'd run
Mm.
these ads for these misspelled popular terms or companies, and their ad would just say like, "Hey, you can't type when you're hungry. Eat a Snickers." Like
Ah,
you
look at
clearly
that.
misspelled it, and they got tons of traffic from that, like a lot of publicity, and then instantly after that, Google shut down where it's like, "Oh, you can no longer bid on misspelled versions
Misspelled
of
words.
words."
Yep.
So
Yeah, so many ways that you just like you game the system, and yes, it might work for a little while, but in the long run, more than likely, then you're like again, then your team's probably scrambling for okay, now how do we fix it all? Because they just did an algorithm update and they fixed it all. Things just do it right to begin with.
yeah,
Don't think too hard about gaming the system for short-term wins. It's like, are you in your business to be a short-term winner? I hope not. And so you think about the long term here and building that kind of big snowball.
yeah, and
Upward.
that's how we like to create like the SEO we do. We like you can't really be algorithm proof, but like you shouldn't be doing things to be worried about algorithm updates.
Yeah.
Like Google's algorithm updates are all about like increasing a better user experience and a better experience on the internet. So as long as you're kind of falling in line with that, with the content you're creating, the tactics you're going after, like you shouldn't have to be worried. And I typically tend not to lose sleep when I hear there's a Google algorithm update because we're not cutting corners.
Yeah, yeah, we're not doing anything crazy. So yeah, perfect. Number three, taking your
Oh,
foot off the gas. Be patient.
this is just like, I mean, going back just to SEO in general. SEO takes time, and a big mistake that anyone or people make is they just get impatient. Um, and so this is something where with SEO, you just have to understand like why does it take time? And I just want to call this out because we say it takes time, but like I feel like some SEOs use that as an excuse to say like, oh, just it takes time. It's gonna take 6 more months. It's like this is normal. Like it takes time for these reasons. But there should be some breadcrumbs, some key indicators to be calling out to show progress as you're getting there. So the reason it takes time is for me, is the biggest thing. You need to build trust with Google. Trust, even like you're trying to build trust with a friend, like that doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Google wants to understand and trust the site. They want to provide the best results for their customers. The reason people go to Google is because when they type something in, they believe that they're going to get what they like asked for. They're going to get the response they need, the help they need.
Yep.
And so Google takes that very seriously. And so it takes time to build up that trust. And part of that trust is like you got to just like get your site crawled and indexed, and you have to have citations go live, and like Google needs to test you. Like Google's constantly testing every website. That's why you can rank one for a while, but then you might drop a little bit and then you pop back up. It's not, you didn't do anything wrong. Google just is constantly testing and want to see like, okay, well, I'm going to put someone up for a second just to see how they're doing, just to see if it's a better experience. And so there's always that volatility happening. So the next couple slides just kind of show how, even though it takes time, like this is a client, like I wouldn't call these like terrible rankings. I've got bad there, but like this is normal. Like this is kind of what a heat map can look like when you first start working on SEO.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you go to the next one, like over time, this was a month later, maybe a month and a half later, like you can see the progression. Like it didn't happen overnight. It took us a month and a half, but it happens. And if you're not seeing progression here, that's where from my point of view, it's like we need to be talking to you and letting you know like, okay, we understand like this isn't working how we expected. We're now doing this. Like there's always just an SEO dance happening to make sure we get the results, because although typically when we do our process, we're going to see this great movement, it's not going to be guaranteed with each and every situation. Yep. Just because there is so many nuances and variables. And so that's where our team is constantly working to try and move you even further than this. If you go to the next slide, like this is a different location, but this is the goal, right?
No.
This just shows you the progress. This one right here. This is the goal. Like this is what we want to see you over time, but that didn't happen overnight. This was a client we've been working with for quite some time where we've got them to this point. So
yep. 100%.
Just gotta be patient.
Yeah, patience is hard. I know, and it's not the best answer you definitely want to hear from someone doing your SEOs. It's like, just be patient. Like, oh, be patient, huh? Like, no, like obviously it's not an answer that we want to ever give, but I mean, we do want a level set. Like, okay, we don't own Google, we don't run Google. If we did, then it'd be probably a different price point that we could charge. We'd be like, hey, we know exactly when this is going to change based on the said time frame and price. But not the case, but we just obviously want to do best practices there. So, but now we're going to go into the 5 tips for your shop's SEO.
Yeah, we can rapid fire these, but just some quick tips for you. We talked about this SEO in general. Like, make sure your site is being crawled and indexed by Google. And you can actually do this. I put a tip not this Tuesday, but the last week on our Facebook page, showing how within Search Console, you can go in and you can see if your pages are indexed or not. And so this is something that's really easy. You can just verify that like, hey, no, Google's found my page. It's crawled. We've got the foundation set. Let's start building everything else.
Yep. 100%. Perfect. Number two,
your Google business profile. This goes to the kind of the local SEO aspect of it. You just need to make sure everything in your profile is intentional and up to date. Any changes, whether that's business hours, whether that's services, anything that's happening in your business, you need to make sure that gets reflected in your Google business profile. And so again, trust factor, Google can trust that your services, your offerings, everything is up to speed, and there's not going to be any issues if a user encounters your profile and doesn't find what they had looked for that should line up with what you want. So taking the time to regularly audit, and that's something that like I spend so much of my time in Google Business Profiles. It's a real treat. No, it really is. This is something you want to make sure you've got on your calendar and you're regularly looking at and maintaining.
100%. All right, number 3.
Naps. We talked about these earlier. Name, address, phone number. The consistency of this can make or break your local rankings in the sense that within the citations, as Google's trying to like find the people to rank geographically, they pull all these citations, and if your information is vastly different on the citations, it just causes confusion.
Yep.
And anytime a crawler gets confused, I'm a big believer crawlers have feelings just like we do. They're just not happy. They're not going to want to serve you as much. So you want to make the crawler's life as easy as possible. And so clearing that up and just having consistency within the citations you build is huge. So if you have what?
How do you check
This is something where there's tools out there that allow you to go in and check. A lot of them are like, there's some bigger, like directories is kind of this broad term. It's really any profile you have on the internet. So like some big ones you probably don't think about is like, you obviously have your Google business profile, but like your Facebook page, your Facebook profile, that's one big one. Your Yelp profile, like anytime you're making changes to your name, address, or phone number, you want to make sure any profile you're aware of that you have, you make sure if there's room for that information is being shown on any of those, that it gets updated as well. And then we have a tool that just like will check all of them for us. It's really easy. We can run analysis for you. So if you're not sure, let us know. We'll run an analysis for you.
Yeah, and nap here is not taking naps. I mean, they are important to make or break the local ranking. So we're talking about NAP, so name, address, phone number. Again, for nap, that's there. Number 4.
Mobile friendly. I think you brought it up, Kelsey. Like people just search on their phones now. This is not a secret. Google went to mobile first indexing years and years ago. If your site's not mobile friendly, you're not going to rank as well. So make sure your site's mobile friendly.
Perfect.
Not really much more to add there.
And then someone asked about the NAP in terms of, does the website address matter for NAP?
Oh, the website. So your domain address doesn't matter as much. It's more the physical location. That being said, if your website changes, that's where that's a whole nother kind of technical can of worms where you need to make sure redirects are set there. It's not going to affect your local rankings as much, but it will definitely affect your organic rankings.
100%. Perfect. And then number 5.
This one is just in general with SEO, like follow the trends and don't try too hard. And this comes back to like where Google wants to serve, like Google, when you look at the top results on a Google page, typically there's almost a formula. You're going to look at the page and they're all going to feel like they're kind of have the same flavor. And that's because that's what Google is favoring. And so anytime we're trying to help our clients rank better, we're not coming out and creating a whole different layout and having 2,000 more words on our page than our competitors. Now we're seeing what they're doing and we're creating content that is similar and following those trends. But if you do that and then you try to like, again, stuff a keyword in there 10 more times to your competitors, that's where you start to try too hard, or you put the near me in there. Like you don't want to do something that just seems abnormal. I guess I could change with don't try too hard to like, don't do something that's not like natural on your website. And if you do that, the content you create is going to really be in a good place that allows you to be competitive for Google.
Perfect. All right. Well, those are kind of all our hot topics across the board here. So we again want to leave a little bit of time here for some Q. I know you guys have asked a bunch of questions as we went along, and so which has been amazing and very helpful. And so I'm gonna make sure that you guys throw in any new questions that you have now. So we acquired a shop, took over its GBP. We renovated the inside of the shop and waiting areas. So the 360 tour of the old shop to GBP does not represent how it looks now. Would it hurt more to keep it live on the GBP or remove it from the GBP?
Shop.
So in terms of virtual tour, so to say.
Oh, interesting. Um, I mean, I think that like from a user perspective, it might be a little confusing if you've like renovated it and they
Yeah.
see that 3D tour and then they go there and it's something completely different. They might be pleasantly surprised, which could be a good thing. But overall, like you just want to keep things consistent with your brand and with your company, your business. So if it's completely different, that's something that I would definitely think about taking off just because it doesn't accurately reflect your shop. Also, 360 tours, like again, engagement factor, have like users might engage more with your profile because of that, but that's not like a significant ranking
Yeah.
signal that it's going
Agree.
to like be detrimental to take out. I think it's more detrimental to give your users a false like idea of what they're going to be encountering.
Yeah,
Um,
and especially if it isn't as nice, because you wouldn't want to risk them looking at it and being like, I don't know if I actually want to go in there. But really, it looks way nicer than it is. So that's where, I mean, if it's different, I would take it off. In my opinion, again, you wouldn't be looking at a huge drop off in rankings or anything like that in regards to that tour changing as well. But good question. Um, any other questions from anyone else? No, thank you, Alan. You've asked amazing questions throughout this, and again, thank you for all those that have continued to ask questions. So that's been very helpful. Again, we're not out of time yet, and so feel free to throw those in here. But I want to make sure we call out. We do free strategy sessions across the board, and so if you're thinking, hey, I would love for you to analyze what I have going on. If you want to see, say, where was it earlier? Like these little GeoGrid rankings. If you want to see how you're performing, what it looks like right now, happy to send those over to you, and we can do that within the strategy session, along with analyzing kind of again your citations and your overall web presence across the board. And so if you want any help there, please book a free strategy session with us. You can go to our website, you can give us a call, you can email us, so whatever works across the board there. Um, we also have a free marketing checklist. And so if, again, you just need to know the basics of what need to be done, granted, it won't have all the SEO amazingness that Trent talked about today within the checklist. This is a lot more basic level from that in terms of like, hey, are these things on the website? Are these things on the Google Business Profile? And so you can go here, though, to go.liftautorepairmarketing.com/marketing checklist. And you can also find that on our website. It's a free download. So again, no strings attached. You can just download it and never talk to us again if you don't want to. Also, like Trent hit on, we have a Facebook group that is filled with other shop owners. We're at, I think, over 1,700 shop owners now in the group. And that's where we post things like this, like our replays of our webinars. We have our podcasts in there. We have tips, tricks, latest updates from Google, just to keep everyone up to date, along with other auto repair shop owners, just kind of sharing things that are going on at their shop and the questions they have. Is a really good interactive place to be. So if you're not already a member of the group, please look it up on Facebook, and you can join and jump in there. And then last but not least, we also have a book that my wife and I wrote on Drive More Business. I mean, I guess, Trent, we need you to write a book now. We'll just Drive More Business SEO for auto repair, a specific one. But yeah, this is again step-by-step guide on internet marketing for auto repair shops. You can find it, get it on Amazon, or get it for your Kindle. There is one other question that says snuck through. How can I track and measure the success of my SEO efforts? Should I focus more on keywords or Google reviews?
I mean, for me, success comes down to as close as we can get to like positive ROI, like a return on your investment, which as much as I love ranking number one for a keyword, being a good metric for a return, it probably isn't the best metric we could measure. So I would say the best metric we can measure for us, we can set up call tracking. We can see how many calls are coming in. That is a great metric of success. How many website visits, how many form fills. And so those are things that we typically will be measuring in order to say like, hey, yeah, obviously you're investing in us. We're getting you more than just like traffic to your website. We want to get you leads. We want to get you hot active leads. And so that's the closer we can get to those, the better. And that's what we, with kind of the tools we have in our repertoire, we are able to call out and deliver as more impactful KPIs outside of keywords or Google reviews.
100%. Perfect. All right, and also I don't know if you guys noticed all these little QR codes. If you just scan that, and it'd take you to the website to book a strategy session as well, if you haven't done that already. But again, I think that is everything. I think those are all the questions. It took a little bit over an hour, so I appreciate everyone still hanging out, still being here. If you're still on the replay and watching, thank you so much for still joining us. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully I know it's been valuable for me. Thank you, Trent, for being here with me today and doing this webinar with someone else. It's kind of nice not having just like openly talk to myself in a sense. So thank you for jumping on and doing this with me. So, but yeah, if you, for those watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, do all the fun things. But any other questions, feel free to reach out to us in varying different ways. You can also direct message me on Facebook if you want to. I'm happy to answer any of your questions there. But thank you all for your time, and we'll catch you guys again next time. Bye.